Hey guys, tonight we're not going on an adventure to find buried treasure or exploring some forgotten pyramid. Tonight we're going to dim the lights, sink back into your pillows, and talk about what it was really like to be a samurai in feudal Japan. And I'll be honest with you, it's probably not what you're picturing. You're likely imagining an honorable warrior standing tall against a perfect sunset, a hero of legend with a flawless katana by their side. That's the movie version, the bedtime story you tell yourself. The reality, well, you probably wouldn't have survived a single day. You would have been exhausted, starving, and absolutely terrified. Being a samurai sucked in so many ways that you wouldn't even consider, from the crippling social pressure to the incredibly brutal training that started before you were even a teenager. It was a life of sacrifice and unending hardship. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're up for it, I'd love to know where you're listening from and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're born into this. It's not a choice you make, not an application you fill out. The moment you enter the world, your fate is sealed. Your father is a samurai, and so you will be one too. There's no escaping it. No quiet rebellion where you can choose to become a peaceful farmer or a talented merchant. The path is set, and it's a path littered with more struggle than glory. Your training starts almost before you can walk, a never-ending curriculum designed to turn you from a soft, laughing child into a hardened weapon. You don't get to play like the other kids. While they're running through rice fields and chasing dragonflies, you're gripping a wooden sword, your small hands aching and your knuckles turning white. Your sense of wonder, that pure, unbridled curiosity of youth, is slowly, systematically erased. It's replaced with disciplined obedience and an almost paralyzing sense of duty. Your days are a relentless cycle of physical conditioning. Early morning, before the sun even thinks about rising, you're out there. Your small feet are bare and cold on the damp ground as you practice your stance. Your muscles burn, but you can't stop. The slightest hesitation earns you a sharp reprimand, or worse, a whack with a stick from your strict teacher. It's not about pain, it's about breaking your spirit and rebuilding it in a new, unyielding form. You are not a person. You are a tool in the service of your Lord. You are an extension of His will, a silent enforcer of His authority. The very idea of having your own desires or opinions is a luxury you can't afford. It's a concept that's beaten out of you long before you ever have to wield a real sword. The curriculum is comprehensive and all-consuming. You spend hours every day mastering the sword, the bow, and the spear. The sword, the katana, is the soul of the samurai. It's the ultimate symbol of your status and your dedication. But the reality is that handling a katana is a grueling task, and you are not allowed a single moment of laziness. You start with a wooden training sword, a bokken, which feels surprisingly heavy in your little hands. You practice thousands of strikes over and over until your arms feel like lead, and your shoulders scream in protest. The sound of the bokken slicing through the air becomes the soundtrack to your childhood. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. It's a dull, rhythmic hum that lulls you into a state of hypnotic exhaustion. Your teacher watches with an eagle eye, correcting your wrist angle, your footwork, your breathing. Every detail matters, because one mistake in a real fight could mean your life, or worse, the dishonor of your family. You're not just learning to fight, though. You're learning to endure. They send you to train in the cold winter air, your breath coming out in white puffs as you shiver and practice your forms. They make you go for days with minimal food and water to simulate the hardships of a military campaign. You learn to read the terrain, to track silently through the forest, to move with a stillness that borders on the supernatural. Your senses are honed to a razor's edge. You can hear a leaf fall 100 feet away, smell the change in the air before a storm hits, and spot an enemy's hiding place from a mile away. It's an incredible transformation, but it comes at the cost of your innocence. You don't get to be a kid. You become a miniature soldier, a small, somber adult in a child's body. And it's not just the physical training that's brutal. Your intellectual education is just as intense. You spend hours poring over military strategy manuals, studying ancient Chinese texts on warfare and tactics. You learn to write and read not for pleasure or curiosity, but to understand and communicate orders. There's a particular historical fact, one that might seem a little odd at first, but it highlights just how much effort went into this. A significant portion of your training, particularly in later periods, involved poetry and calligraphy. It wasn't just a leisure activity, it was a form of mental and spiritual discipline. By mastering these arts, you were supposed to cultivate a sense of inner calm and refined aesthetic appreciation, even in the face of death. The idea was to be as skilled with a brush as you were with a sword, a warrior who was also an artist. It's a nice thought, but you're still a 10-year-old being forced to sit perfectly still for hours perfecting a single character. Imagine your fourth grade teacher telling you that if you mess up your cursive E, you might get executed one day. That's the level of pressure you're under. The sword in particular is a source of unending dread. Your training partners are just as tired and miserable as you are. A small part of you, a part that has yet to be fully extinguished, resents them. You know that one day you might have to fight them, or they might become your superiors, or they might be the ones to execute you. There's a constant low-level thrum of anxiety that follows you everywhere you go. It's the kind of background noise that you get used to, like the hum of a refrigerator, but it never really goes away. It just settles into your bones and becomes part of who you are. The physical exhaustion is cumulative, a debt you can never fully repay. By the time you're a teenager, you've already been training for a decade. Your body is a machine lean and hardened with calloused hands and a spine that is ramrod straight. But internally, you're hollowed out. All those years of forced discipline and emotional suppression have left a deep, unfillable void. You are good at what you do, a weapon-wielding savant, but at what cost? You don't know how to relax, how to laugh genuinely, or how to just be. The idea of unwinding doesn't exist for you. Your downtime is spent polishing your armor, sharpening your sword, or studying more. The concept of a day off is a foreign one. It's a never-ending job that you can't quit, and the retirement plan is usually a painful one. The training also extends to your home life. Your father, a veteran samurai, is a demanding and often cold presence. He sees you not as his son, but as his heir, the one who will carry on the family honor. Your mother, though perhaps more loving, is equally bound by the rigid social codes. She teaches you the proper etiquette, the silent submission, the correct way to walk, and the precise way to sit. Every action is scrutinized, every gesture has a meaning. You can't slouch, you can't speak out of turn, and you can't show any emotion. If you get injured during training, you are expected to hide the pain. To cry is a sign of weakness, a shameful display that brings dishonor upon your family. So, you learn to bear it to internalize the pain and present a stoic, impassive face to the world. There's a little-known detail about this early training that really puts it into perspective. Many young samurai were taught to practice their sword forms in complete darkness or with their eyes closed. The idea was to develop a sense of spatial awareness and muscle memory so profound that they could fight blind. Imagine standing in the pitch black with only the sound of your own breathing and the soft, menacing swoosh of your blade. It's an exercise in pure terror, but it's designed to make you so confident in your skills that you become an instinctual fighter. You are no longer thinking, you are simply reacting, a living extension of your weapon. It's an almost Zen-like approach to violence, a chilling fusion of art and destruction. And what about friendship? The kind of deep, meaningful bonds you see in modern movies. They were rare. Your relationships with your peers were often based on a mutual understanding of your shared misery, but there was always a competitive edge. Who was the fastest? Who was the most precise? Who could endure the most pain without flinching? This constant competition, coupled with the ever-present knowledge that a political shift could make a sworn friend into a deadly enemy, meant you never truly let your guard down. You're always in a state of quiet appraisal, measuring your allies and your rivals, always on the lookout for a potential betrayal. As you get older, the training gets even more intense. You start practicing with real blades, the cold, smooth steel, a shocking contrast to the wooden bakken. The weight is different, the balance is different, and the edge is a promise of a final gruesome end. You practice drills designed to simulate real combat, and the stakes are raised from painful corrections to potentially fatal mistakes. The fear of cutting yourself, or worse, cutting your training partner, is a constant and sharp companion. Your hands are always slick with sweat, your heart thumping a frantic rhythm against your ribs. and the scholarly debates about this period of history are fascinating. For instance, historians still debate whether the constant emphasis on training and discipline truly made the samurai a superior fighting force, or if it just created a class of rigid, emotionally stunted individuals who were more skilled at killing than at living. Some scholars argue that the rigid structure of samurai life stifled innovation and creativity, while others contend that the very nature of their training made them an almost unbeatable force on the battlefield. It's a point that remains open for discussion and one that doesn't have a clear answer. But as you're living it, you don't care about academic debates. You just want to get through the day without being embarrassed or injured. By your late teens, you are considered a man and a samurai in your own right. But what does that mean? It means you have a new set of responsibilities and the punishments for failure become even more severe. You are given a stipend, often a pitiful amount of rice that has to support your entire family. The honor of your position doesn't put food on the table. In fact, many samurai lived in grinding poverty, struggling to maintain a facade of wealth and respectability while their stomachs rumbled with hunger. This is something we'll get to in a later chapter, but for now, just know that your lifelong training doesn't come with a great salary. So you've spent your entire life preparing for this. You've sacrificed your childhood, your emotions, and your individuality. You've become a weapon, a perfect, unfeeling instrument of your Lord's will. And for what? For the chance to go to war, to maybe die in a muddy field far from home and surrounded by strangers. You are a walking testament to the idea that honor is a terrible substitute for happiness. You're ready to kill to die and to do your duty, but you're not ready for the mundane, soul-crushing realities of your life. The endless training has prepared you for battle, but it hasn't prepared you for poverty, for political betrayal, or for the quiet, hollow feeling in your chest. You are a samurai. You are a warrior. You are a tool. And in the dead of night, as you lie on your futon, you wonder if you'll ever be a person again. And the truth is, you probably won't. The warrior you have become has subsumed the child you once were leaving only the ghost of a memory. A fleeting image of a kid with dirty knees and a genuine smile, running through a field utterly free. But that's not you. Not anymore. You are a product of your training, and that training has made you a machine. You've endured the training, haven't you? Remember that feeling. The cold air, the ache in your knuckles from gripping a wooden sword, the constant low-level thrum of anxiety in your chest. That was just the beginning. That was the physical, the tangible part of being a samurai. But now, as you stand as an adult, a new weight settles on your shoulders. It's a weight that's far heavier than any armor and far more constricting than any uniform. This is the weight of the social hierarchy. You are now a piece in a game of chess and you can't choose which square you land on. Your entire life, from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, is dictated by a rigid, unyielding social order. And here's the kicker, it's not a ladder you can climb. It's a pyramid and you are stuck on your designated tier. The world you inhabit is not a world of individuals. It's a world of clans, of families, of lords and retainers. You belong to your daimyo, your lord, in a way that is total and absolute. Your very identity is tied to his name, his success, his honor. Your life is not your own. If he commands you to fight, you fight. If he commands you to die, you die. There is no negotiating, no raising your hand to ask if you can get a few more minutes to eat your dinner. Your purpose is simple and terrifying: to serve and protect him, no matter the cost to yourself. And you've been trained for this your entire life. All that physical and mental conditioning from your childhood. It wasn't just to make you a good fighter, it was to make you an obedient servant. The two are intertwined, a lethal dance that leaves no room for personal will or desire. The social structure is a series of interconnected relationships, each one defined by its level of subordination. At the top is the shogun, the military dictator of the entire country, a position you will never even get close to seeing. Below him are the powerful daimyo, the lords who control vast swaths of land and the people on them. And below the daimyo are you, the samurai, his retainers. This entire system, the Bushi no Ichibun, or the way of the warrior's household, is the foundation of your entire existence. It's more than just a set of rules, it's a way of life, a worldview that says your place in the world is fixed and immovable. There is no rags to riches story here, no climbing the corporate ladder to become the CEO. You are what you were born to be, and that is a servant. And this subservience permeates every aspect of your life. Imagine a room. The floor is cold to the touch, and you can feel the intricate pattern of the tatami mats under your knees. You enter the room, and immediately, instinctively, you know exactly where to sit based on your rank. There are no name tags, no assigned seats. It's an unspoken, almost psychic understanding that governs everything. The highest ranking samurai get the seats closest to the Lord, and the further down you are, the closer to the door you are, a symbolic representation of your relative unimportance. If you accidentally take a seat a level above your station, it's not just an awkward social misstep. It's a profound act of disrespect, a public challenge to the entire system, and the consequences can be, let's just say they're not a simple apology. This is where the politeness becomes a kind of weapon. Every interaction from a formal meeting to a casual greeting in a hallway is governed by incredibly specific rules of etiquette. The bowing alone could fill a textbook. The depth of your bow, the angle of your back, the position of your hands, it's all a carefully choreographed dance that communicates your exact place in the hierarchy. You have to bow at a different angle to a samurai of higher rank than you do to your lord, and an entirely different one to a farmer. Getting it wrong is like saying something deeply offensive in a foreign language. You might not even know you did it until you're on the receiving end of a sudden, chilling coldness. It's like a corporate retreat where everyone has to guess the CEO's favorite ice cream. And if you get it wrong, your entire career ends. The difference is you're not just losing your job, you're losing your life. The psychological toll of this is immense. You are never, ever relaxed. You are always, always performing. Every single one of your actions is a reflection on your Lord, on your family, and on yourself. You are the living embodiment of your master's honor. If you falter, if you make a mistake, if you bring any kind of shame upon yourself, that shame radiates outward a stain that can tarnish your entire clan. So you exist in a state of hypervigilance, constantly aware of your every move, your every word, your very posture. You are a human statue meant to be looked at and admired, but never to move freely on your own. And the lack of personal choice is suffocating. Think about the big decisions in your life. What you do for a living, who you marry, where you live. As a samurai, you don't get to make those choices. Your lord might decide that your skills are better suited to a bureaucratic role, and just like that, all the years of endless sword training feel like a waste. Your family will arrange your marriage for political reasons to solidify an alliance with another clan. You have no say in the matter. You are a pawn in a larger game, and your entire existence is a series of sacrifices made for the benefit of someone else. You thought you had it rough when your parents wanted you to become an accountant instead of a musician. Imagine your parents and your lord telling you that your entire purpose is to die for a cause you don't even fully understand. There's an interesting little detail about the political landscape that highlights this perfectly. The samurai, for all their supposed prestige, were often incredibly poor. Their income came from a rice stipend from their lord, and the value of that stipend was entirely at his discretion. It was a clever way to keep the samurai dependent and loyal. You can't start a rebellion when you're worried about where your next meal is coming from. So, while you may be part of this honorable warrior class, you spend your days worrying about the price of rice, the cost of repairing your armor, and how you're going to feed your family. You are living a life of constant financial anxiety, all under the guise of an honorable existence. And what about the one time you might have a choice? When your lord commands you to do something that might conflict with your personal code of honor? Or what if your lord is a cruel and unjust man, and you know in your heart that what he asks you to do is wrong? The academic debate around this is fascinating. Historians still argue about how much freedom a samurai truly had to change allegiances. While the ideal of loyalty was absolute, there are many historical examples of samurai switching their lords for various reasons, whether it was for better pay, a more promising career path, or simply because their current lord was a terrible person. Was this seen as a betrayal or a pragmatic choice in a brutal world? It's a point of contention among scholars, but for you, the individual, the choice is a terrifying one. Do you stay loyal and commit an act you know is wrong, or do you abandon your lord and become a ronin, a masterless samurai? a path that is fraught with even more danger and social stigma. The very question itself is a luxury you probably wouldn't dare to ask out loud. The lack of personal autonomy is deeply, profoundly dehumanizing. You've been trained since childhood to become a weapon, but the social structure reduces you even further. You're not even a living weapon with a will of its own. You're a component in a complex machine, and a replaceable one at that. When a samurai falls in battle, his replacement is already being trained. His death is a moment of sadness for his family, but for the clan, it's just a minor administrative detail. It's a numbers game, and you're just a number. The very essence of what makes you a person, your individual thoughts, your unique dreams, your personal desires are all irrelevant. You're surrounded by people, but you're profoundly alone. The relationships you have are transactional based on rank and power dynamics. The polite conversations you have are filled with hidden meanings and subtle threats. It was all please and thank you, right up until the point where they politely asked you to disembowel yourself to atone for an offense. The casual small talk is a minefield of potential insults and faux pas. You learn to read the room to interpret every tiny gesture, every subtle shift in tone, because your life might depend on it. Your home, a place that should be a sanctuary, is a mirror of the larger social structure. The men in your family command the respect of the women and children, and you, as a young samurai, are subject to your father's will. Your meals are eaten in a specific order, your father first, then you, then the rest of the family. It is a constant, subtle reminder that your place is below him, just as his place is below his lord. There is no escape from the hierarchy. It follows you from the battlefield to the quiet of your own home, a constant and suffocating presence that never lets you forget who you are, and more importantly, who you are not. So, as you lie on your futon at night, maybe a soft breeze rustles the paper screen, and you can hear the distant hum of the crickets. You can't even find peace in your own thoughts. You are still a samurai. Your mind is still running through the day's events, replaying every conversation, every gesture, every bow, analyzing it for any potential misstep. The training was a physical burden, but this social cage is a mental one, an invisible prison that leaves you feeling utterly exhausted and utterly alone. You are an honorable warrior, yes, but you are also a prisoner of your own rank, a servant with no master but his own life, a life that isn't even his to live. And that, my friend, is a truth heavier than any sword you will ever carry. Remember that suffocating feeling, the one from the last chapter, the one that tells you you're just a pawn, a piece in a game played by men far above you. Well, now imagine that feeling is joined by a constant cold presence that sits right behind your ribs. It's the constant threat of disgrace. As a samurai, your honor is everything. It's more valuable than your life, your family, your future. It is the currency of your existence, the very air you breathe. And here's the brutal, cold reality of it: you can lose it in an instant. The smallest mistake, the slightest miscalculation, the briefest moment of weakness, any of it can bring a wave of dishonor so profound that the only acceptable way to cleanse it is through your own death. You're not just a warrior anymore. You're a walking, breathing monument to your clan's reputation. And every single action you take, from the way you unsheath your sword to the way you greet a superior, is scrutinized for any sign of a flaw. This isn't a world of second chances or forgiveness. There are no oops, my bads here. The consequences for failure are absolute, final, and often self-inflicted. It's like having your boss, your parents, and every one of your exes watching your every move all at the same time with a sharp knife in their hands. The pressure is suffocating. The most terrifying word in your vocabulary is seppuku, a ritual suicide. You've probably heard of it. It's been romanticized in countless stories, presented as a noble, courageous act of atonement. But to you, it is a constant looming specter. It is the ultimate punishment, the final gruesome escape from an unbearable situation. It's a very dramatic way of saying, I resign. The entire purpose of it is to prove your sincerity and restore your honor. By taking your own life, you are demonstrating that you value your honor more than you value your life, and that in the eyes of society is the ultimate virtue. The ways you could be forced to commit seppuku were seemingly endless. A military failure, no matter how small, could be seen as an unforgivable act of cowardice. The loss of a battle, the failure to protect your lord, or even a strategic blunder that results in the deaths of your men, all of it could lead to a command to atone. But it's not just the battlefield. A social misstep in your lord's court, a public display of fear, a failure to carry out an order, or a simple act of insubordination could be considered so grave as to require your death. You are a human embodiment of your lord's will, and a flaw in your design is a flaw in his honor. The psychological toll is immense. You are not just fighting for your life. You are constantly fighting to avoid a fate worse than a clean death in battle. This is where the training from your childhood really comes into play in the most chilling way possible. All that emotional suppression, all that physical conditioning, the relentless pursuit of perfection, it was all designed to prepare you for this. To face your own death with an impassive, stoic face to show no fear to prove to everyone watching that your training was a success. That you are, in fact, a perfect, unfeeling tool. You forgot to turn in your homework, seppuku. You sent a text to the wrong group chat, seppuku. It's a ludicrous and terrifying concept, a perfect expression of a society where appearances mean everything and personal well-being means nothing. And the ceremony itself is horrific. It is not a quick, painless death. The common historical fact is that the act of seppuku involves the samurai plunging a short sword, a wakizashi or a tanto, into his own stomach and slicing horizontally across it. This is a slow, agonizing process. The pain is unimaginable, but you are expected to show no outward sign of it. Your face must remain impassive, your body completely still, even as your lifeblood spills out onto the mat. The entire point is to demonstrate your courage and control, even in the face of unimaginable suffering. To fail to do so, to cry out in pain, is to fail in your final act of honor and to die in shame. And this is where the role of the kaishakunin comes in. This is the second the person who stands behind you, ready to behead you, at the moment you complete the act of slicing. His job is to end your suffering and ensure a clean death. The kaishakunin is typically a close friend, a person you trust. Imagine that. Your best friend is there not to comfort you, but to end your life. This role is considered an act of profound mercy, a final gesture of respect. The entire thing is a beautifully horrifying piece of performance art, a dance between honor, pain, and death. There is a fascinating and often overlooked detail about this process. Sometimes when a samurai was deemed too young to perform the ritual properly, or in cases where the honor was so great that unnecessary gore was to be avoided, a substitute sword was used. The samurai would be given a paper fan or a wooden sword. He would touch the fan or the sword to his stomach, and at that exact moment the kaishakunin would behead him. This allowed the person to die honorably while maintaining a sense of decorum and preventing a gruesome spectacle. It's an almost absurd twist of etiquette and ritual of formality in the face of death itself. And what about a dishonorable death, a coward's death? That is the greatest fear of all, to be killed in a way that brings shame to your family, to your lord, to your name. If you show fear in battle, if you surrender, if you refuse to fight, you will not be given the courtesy of seppuku. You will be executed like a common criminal, your head unceremoniously taken, and your name erased from the records. Your entire life's work, all those years of grueling training and constant pressure, will have been for nothing. You will be remembered as a coward, and your family will bear that shame for generations. Scholars still debate the true origin and purpose of seppuku. Was it an ancient act of atonement, a deeply held belief in the sanctity of honor? Or was it a later invention, a tool used by the ruling class to maintain control over the samurai? It's a valid question. By making ritual suicide the only path to a respectable death, the rulers were able to ensure that their warriors would never surrender, never retreat, and never question a direct order. The fear of a shameful death was a far more powerful motivator than any promise of glory. The psychological manipulation at the heart of this system is both brilliant and terrifying. You were not just a warrior, you were a soldier with a gun to his head, a gun you were expected to fire yourself if you failed. This constant nagging fear of disgrace is the price you pay for your social standing. You might be a samurai, a member of the elite warrior class, but you are never truly free. Your very existence is a tightrope walk over an abyss of dishonor. Every step, every word, every action is a potential misstep that could send you plummeting into that abyss. And the worst part of it all, the only person who can pull you out of it is yourself with a very sharp blade. So, as you try to drift off to sleep, maybe you hear the soft hiss of a fan turning the rhythmic sound of your own breathing. But you can't fully relax. Your mind is still running, replaying the day's events, searching for any potential flaw, any tiny misstep that might have gone unnoticed. The pressure is an invisible weight on your chest, a silent vow that you will live and die with honor. And the quiet dread of having to prove it is an unwelcome companion in the dark. It is the ultimate sacrifice, a life lived in constant fear of a truly honorable death. You've learned to endure the training, and you've learned to navigate the treacherous world of social hierarchy. You've lived with the constant cold fear of dishonor. All of it, every single thing you've done since you were a child, has been in preparation for this war. And it's nothing like the glorious battles you see in the movies. There is no triumphant music. There is no slow-motion heroism. There is only mud sweat and a pervasive bone-deep misery that follows you every single day. This is the brutal reality of being a samurai on campaign. You are not a hero on a quest. You are a foot soldier in a grinding, dirty war, and your chances of a heroic, clean death are vanishingly small. The journey to the battlefield is a trial in itself. You don't get to ride a fancy horse the entire way. You walk. For weeks, sometimes months you walk. Your armor, which looked so impressive hanging on a rack, feels like a lead blanket wrapped around your body. The heavy metal plates and lacquered leather creak and groan with every step. You carry your weapons, your personal effects, and your share of the supplies. Your backpack for this trip includes a full suit of armor and a lifetime supply of fear. Your shoulders ache, your feet blister, and the constant presence of the sun or the biting wind makes every day a new kind of hell. And the living conditions? Forget about it. There's no modern hotel with a comfortable bed and climate control. Your camp is a collection of makeshift tents and a lot of very cold, very damp ground. You sleep on a thin mat if you're lucky, and you wake up to the gnawing feeling of hunger in your gut. Food is a commodity, and it's almost always stale, poorly cooked rice, sometimes with a little dried fish or salted vegetable. The thought of a warm bowl of soup, of a hot bath, of any comfort at all, feels like a distant, impossible dream. This is not just a fight. It's a grueling test of endurance, and a huge number of samurai don't even make it to the battlefield. They fall to disease, to exhaustion, to starvation. No Wi-Fi, no clean water, no pleasantries, just mud and dysentery. The ultimate glamping fail. The sanitation is non-existent. You are living in a sea of your own waste, and the smell of the camp is a constant, nauseating reminder of your wretched conditions. The flies are a cloud around your head, and the rats are your silent, ever-present companions. Disease spreads like wildfire. A small cut, a bad batch of water, a simple cough, any of it can be a death sentence. You are far more likely to die from a fever or an infection than you are from a sword to the gut. The medics, if you can even call them that, have limited tools and even less understanding of basic hygiene. Your body, so finely tuned by years of training, is in a constant state of rebellion, fighting off illness and exhaustion at the same time. And then there's the battlefield itself. It's not a perfectly flat, manicured field. It's a slope of broken ground, a marsh, a dense forest, or a riverbed. You are fighting in a place designed to make you stumble, to tire you out, to give your enemy the advantage. The pre-battle sounds are a mix of horrifying and beautiful. The conch shells, the ceremonial drums, the shouts of the commanders. There's an interesting, little-known fact about these sounds. The use of war drums and horns wasn't just to signal orders. They were used as a form of psychological warfare. The relentless, rhythmic beat of the drums was meant to terrify the enemy, to break their will, and to create a sense of manic, unyielding resolve in your own men. It's a primal, visceral sound that seeps into your bones and makes your heart beat a frantic rhythm. You're not thinking, you're just moving, and your entire body is screaming a single terrifying word: charge. The battle itself is a chaotic, brutal mess. The popular image of two samurai facing off in a perfectly choreographed duel is just that, an image. The reality is a swirling mass of bodies, a cacophony of metal on metal, a storm of dust and blood. You can't see what's happening 2 feet in front of you. You are relying on your years of training on pure instinct, on the muscle memory that was beaten into you as a child. You are fighting not for glory, but for survival. Every strike, every block is a desperate attempt to stay alive for just one more second. You are dying to get a good review from your boss, but instead of a promotion, you get a swift beheading. The entire experience is a nightmare, a horrific blend of fear and desperation, and the reward for a successful day of fighting. A gruesome task awaits you. The most common historical fact about samurai warfare is the practice of kubikiri, or head-taking. After a battle, samurai would behead their opponents and bring the severed heads back to their commander. This was how victory was measured and how rewards were given. Your rank, your promotion, and your reputation all depended on how many heads you took. You're standing there in the mud, your body shaking from the adrenaline and the exhaustion, and you're forced to perform this final awful act. You're cutting off a stranger's head, and you're doing it not because you want to, but because your entire future depends on it. It's a chilling practice that shows just how divorced from humanity the samurai lifestyle could become. The life of a samurai on the battlefield is not a glorious one. It's filled with suffering, with fear, with death. And your own death, if it comes, is more likely to be a painful, anonymous one in the mud than a heroic final moment in the spotlight. You are surrounded by the bodies of your friends, your comrades. You recognize the familiar crest on their armor, the faces you've known since childhood. But in the end, they are just another casualty, a body to be cleared from the field. You fight not for them, but for the life you still possess. And this is where a great academic debate arises. Historians still argue about whether the samurai truly fought as a cohesive, organized army, or if their pursuit of individual glory and honor meant they were more of a collection of highly skilled but independent warriors. Was the focus on taking a single opponent's head a sign of a flawed military strategy, or was it a clever way to motivate soldiers to fight with maximum ferocity? It's a point of contention that highlights the complex and often contradictory nature of the samurai code. But as you're in the thick of it, none of that matters. All you care about is surviving the next 5 minutes. So you survive the day. You're back in the filthy camp, the smell of mud and blood and fear, a thick blanket in the air. You try to sleep, but the sounds of the night are a constant reminder of the day's horrors. The groans of the wounded, the hushed conversations of the other men, the sound of the wind rattling the fabric of your tent. You've endured the training, the social pressure, the threat of dishonor, and the misery of war. You have become the perfect tool of your Lord, a living embodiment of his will. But you are also a human being, and your body and mind are screaming for rest, for a moment of peace. But there is no peace. There is only the long march, the hunger, and the quiet, gnawing fear that you will never return home. You've survived the battlefield. You've endured the mud, the disease, the gnawing hunger, and the constant fear of a painful death. You are a victor, a warrior who has brought honor to his Lord. And what's your reward for all that suffering? Not a chest of gold, not a castle of your own. Your reward is a meager stipend of rice. You're a samurai, a member of the elite warrior class, a pillar of society, and you are broke. The prestige of your title is a flimsy silk robe draped over a hollow, starving man. The image of the powerful, wealthy samurai is a complete fantasy. The brutal reality is a life of constant financial strain, a quiet, desperate struggle that is far less glorious than any battle. This is the central paradox of your existence. You are at the top of the social pyramid with peasants and merchants below you, but they are often richer than you are. The merchant class, with their trade and their business acumen, can amass fortunes that you can only dream of. Your paycheck is measured in rice, which is great until you realize you can't pay your tailor or your moneylender with grains. Welcome to the feudal age struggle. Your entire financial existence is dependent on your lord's whim, on his goodwill, and on his own financial stability. If his coffers are running low, your rice stipend might be reduced. There's no negotiation, no union you can join. You just have to live with less. The basic unit of your wealth is the koku, a traditional measure of rice equivalent to the amount needed to feed one person for a year. Your stipend is measured in koku, perhaps a few dozen for a lower-ranking samurai. On paper, it sounds like a lot, but it's just enough to survive. and often not even that. Your lord provides you with this rice, and you are then responsible for all your other expenses. And as a samurai, those expenses are astronomical. You have to maintain your appearance, your armor, and your weapons. The samurai sword, the katana, is a work of art, a masterpiece of craftsmanship, and it is also an incredibly expensive tool that requires constant maintenance and care. The same goes for your armor, which is heavy, complex, and a constant financial drain. You have to look rich to prove you're an elite warrior, even though you just sold your great-grandfather's tea set to buy new armor. It's the original keeping up with the Joneses, but with far more dramatic consequences. The constant need to maintain an image clashes violently with the reality of your poverty. You have to wear silk robes even when they're worn and thin from overuse. You have to ride a horse even if you can barely afford to feed it. You have to live in a proper samurai home even if the roof leaks and the walls are in disrepair. It's a constant humiliating performance, an act you have to put on every single day to save face. The psychological toll of this is immense. You are an honorable warrior, a master of the sword, a disciplined man of the people. But your real skill is bartering for fish and haggling over the price of silk. Talk about a career pivot. The desperation of the samurai for money led to an interesting and often overlooked historical fact. Many of them were forced to take on second jobs, small businesses that were technically forbidden by their status, but were a necessity for survival. Some samurai would take on administrative roles for merchants using their education to keep ledgers and write correspondence. Others would open small tea houses or run umbrella shops. Imagine a hardened warrior, a veteran of countless battles, selling umbrellas to a merchant who is 10 times richer than he is. It's a quiet tragedy, a profound humiliation that speaks to the deep flaw in the feudal system. They were trapped between a rigid social code that forbade them from engaging in commerce and a desperate need for money that forced them to do so anyway. And this leads to a great academic debate among historians. Was the impoverished samurai a widespread reality throughout the feudal period? Or was it a phenomenon that became more common in the peaceful Edo period? Some scholars argue that during times of constant warfare, a samurai could earn his wealth through battle, through taking heads, and through seizing territory. Others contend that the grinding poverty was a constant of samurai life, and that the financial system was designed to keep them dependent on their lords. It's a point of contention that highlights the complex and often contradictory nature of samurai life. But as you are living it, you don't care about the academic debates. You just want to figure out how to pay for your child's shoes. The constant anxiety about money eats away at your soul. You worry about your rice stipend being late. You worry about the price of goods going up. You worry about a sudden, unexpected expense like having to buy new armor after a battle. There's no safety net, no savings account. Your wealth is entirely tied to the land and the harvest. A bad crop can mean a season of hunger for you and your family. It is a constant gnawing fear, a kind of mental and emotional hunger that is far worse than any physical hunger you might experience on the battlefield. And the borrowing. The constant, quiet, humiliating borrowing from merchants. They are your social inferiors, but they hold all the power. They can charge you exorbitant interest rates, and you have to pay them because you have no other choice. This debt is a kind of shackle, an invisible chain, that binds you to a system that is designed to keep you poor. You are a prestigious warrior, but you are also a perpetual debtor, a man in a position of authority who has to grovel for money from a class he is supposed to be superior to. So as you lie on your futon at night listening to the gentle hum of the wind through the paper screens, you are not thinking about your glorious victories. You are not thinking about the honor you have brought to your clan. You are thinking about money. You are thinking about how you're going to feed your family next week. You are thinking about the broken sword you can't afford to fix. You are thinking about the subtle, quiet humiliation of your poverty. And that more than any battle or any training is the real struggle. It is a struggle that never ends a battle against an enemy you can never truly defeat. It is the silent, lonely misery of being a samurai. You've survived the physical trials of training, the suffocating grip of social hierarchy, the gnawing fear of dishonor, and the brutal reality of war and poverty. All of these struggles, all of these miseries, They are just the outward symptoms of a much deeper, more insidious burden. The ultimate weight on your shoulders isn't a suit of armor, it is the philosophical code that governs your every waking thought. It is the concept of Bushido, the way of the warrior. On paper, it sounds beautiful, a collection of noble virtues like loyalty, honor, and courage. In reality, it is a demanding master that requires the suppression of your very humanity. It is the perfect philosophical justification for the cold, unfeeling existence you are forced to lead. Bushido is the unwritten contract of your life. It is the reason you endure the training without complaint, the reason you follow orders without question, and the reason you are expected to die without a hint of fear. Your therapist would be busy for years. The first session would just be you saying, "It is what it is," over and over again. The code demands that you act with rectitude to be just and honest, but this is a selective honesty. You are honest in your loyalty to your Lord, but you are not allowed to be honest about your hunger, your fear, or your doubt. You are a living contradiction, a man who is both honest and a lie at the same time. It demands courage not just on the battlefield, but in every moment of your life. You are expected to face down 1,000 enemies without flinching, but you are also expected to face down a small family problem with the same detached stoic resolve. The code demands that you never show fear, never show weakness, never show emotion at all. Your wish list is just a blank piece of paper, not because you don't want anything, but because Bushido says you shouldn't. Your desires, your dreams, your personal feelings, they are all irrelevant. The only thing that matters is your duty. You are supposed to live as if you are already dead, a central tenet of Bushido, particularly from philosophical texts of the time. You are to have no attachment to life, no fear of its end, so that you may serve your Lord completely and without hesitation. It's a powerful and chilling idea, and it creates a profound sense of emptiness inside you. The constant suppression of emotion creates a chasm between you and everyone around you. You are unable to express love to your spouse, affection to your children, or friendship to your comrades. Everything is a performance. You must always maintain a composed and impassive face, a poker face that shows nothing. Your relationships are formal, polite, and distant. You are not a father who can comfort a crying child. You are a patriarch who must teach him the way of the warrior. You are not a husband who can share his fears. You are a samurai who must be an unwavering pillar of strength. The love you have for your family is there buried deep down, but it is not something you can show. The most you can do is ensure their honor and their security, and you do that through cold, hard discipline, not through warmth or kindness. This is where the hypocrisy of the code becomes a bitter pill to swallow. It demands benevolence and respect for others, but it also commands you to kill your enemies, to take their heads, to be an instrument of your Lord's will, no matter how cruel or unjust he may be. You're supposed to be honest and benevolent, but you're also expected to behead your best friend if your Lord commands it. It's the ultimate rules for thee, not for me scenario. The code is a moral compass that points in two contradictory directions, at once leaving you with no clear path to follow, except the one that leads to total obedience. The psychological toll of this is immense. You are living a lie, a performance that never ends. You are constantly policing your own thoughts, your own feelings, your own actions. The code of Bushido has become a prison, a cage built of honor and duty, and you are trapped inside it. You are not allowed to have an opinion, not allowed to have a desire, not allowed to have a life of your own. Your life is a sacrifice, and you are the one who has to offer it up piece by piece, day by day. And this obsession with control extends even to death itself. It wasn't enough to die honorably. You had to die with the proper decorum. There's a little-known detail about this. When a samurai was facing a terminal illness or an inevitable non-battlefield death, the code of Bushido dictated how they were to prepare. They would meticulously bathe, dress in their finest robes, and write a death poem, a final piece of poetry that was meant to sum up their life. This was a final act of control, a final declaration that even in death they were still a samurai. They were not allowed to show fear, not allowed to show pain. The end of their life was treated with the same meticulousness as a military campaign. It's an absurd, almost beautiful testament to the power of the code, and a chilling reminder that even in your most private, most vulnerable moments, you were still a warrior. This leads to a fascinating point of academic debate. Historians still argue about the true historical breadth of Bushido. Was it a uniform, widely followed code in the feudal era? Or was it a more romanticized concept developed much later? Some scholars argue that the rigid, unforgiving code we know today was formalized during the long, peaceful Edo period when samurai needed a purpose beyond war. It was a way to maintain their social status and their sense of self-worth when they were no longer needed on the battlefield. It was a philosophical tool used to keep a potentially dangerous warrior class in line. But for you, the individual living under the code, the academic debate is irrelevant. It is your reality, and it is a crushing one. So, as you lie on your futon, the silence of the night wrapping around you, you are utterly alone. You cannot share your fears with your family. You cannot share your exhaustion with your comrades. You are a solitary figure bound by a code that demands perfection and promises only a clean death. The honor you have so relentlessly pursued has come at the cost of your humanity, and you are left with a quiet, profound emptiness. It is the burden of Bushido, a psychological weight heavier than any sword, a burden that you will carry until your last breath. You've mastered the art of physical endurance, psychological suppression, and financial hardship. You've learned to live with the crushing burden of a code that demands you be perfect while offering you nothing in return. And now we move on to the most basic, most unglamorous part of your life. We talk about where you live and how you live. Forget those perfect minimalist images of clean tatami mats and elegant paper screens. The reality of your living conditions, whether you're on the road or in a barracks, is one of constant discomfort, a lack of privacy, and a pervasive sense of dirt and grime. The honor of your station doesn't come with running water. Your smart toilet is a bucket. Your air purifier is a window. You're living the ultimate offline life, whether you want to or not. When you're on a military campaign, your home is a temporary, flimsy tent. It offers little protection from the biting cold or the driving rain. You sleep on the ground or on a thin, damp straw mat. Your clothes are stiff with sweat and mud, and there's no way to properly clean them. The smell of a military camp is a mix of stale rice, unwashed bodies, and the ever-present stench of human waste. The lack of proper sanitation is a common historical fact of the era, and it is a major source of the misery you experience. You are living in a sea of your own filth. The latrines are open pits, a breeding ground for flies and disease. You are surrounded by people, but you have no personal space. It's like living in a college dorm forever, but with swords. Even when you are not on campaign, your living conditions are a far cry from elegant. Your home, if you are a lower-ranking samurai, is a small Spartan affair. It is built to be functional, not comfortable. The floors are cold, and in the winter, the biting wind seeps through the paper screens, leaving you shivering on your futon. There is no central heating. Your only source of warmth is a small charcoal brazier, which provides a little heat and a lot of smoke. The smoke hangs in the air, a constant film that stings your eyes and makes the air heavy and uninviting. The samurai class may have been at the top of the social hierarchy, but you both share the same communal latrine and the same lack of deodorant. The great equalizer is a bad smell. The lack of personal hygiene is a constant battle. You have no running water, no soap, no modern toiletries. A common fact is that personal hygiene was practiced using what was available. You might wash your face in a bucket of cold water in the morning, and that's it. Your body is a canvas of sweat and grime, a constant reminder of your physical discomfort. You can try to mask the smell with a little perfume or some powdered rice, but it's a futile effort. The smell of an unwashed body is a persistent and unavoidable reality. There's an interesting and little-known detail about bathing in this period. While the upper classes might have had private baths, most people, including most samurai, used public bathhouses. This was not a leisurely activity, it was a necessity. Everyone, regardless of their social status, would use the same communal water, a source of countless diseases and infections. You would sit in the hot water, scrubbing yourself down, all while sharing the space with your superiors, your inferiors, and everyone in between. It was a place of forced equality, a reminder that underneath the silk robes and the polished armor, you were just a person and a dirty one at that. It's a humbling and often uncomfortable experience. The privacy you crave, the personal space you yearn for, is non-existent. The lack of privacy is a constant source of stress. You are never truly alone. The walls of your home are made of paper, and a person standing on the other side can hear your every word, your every breath. You are always under the scrutiny of your family, your neighbors, your lord. This is a world without personal space where every aspect of your life is on public display. You are a human being who needs time alone, who needs a moment to reflect, but you are not allowed that luxury. The code of Bushido demands that you be a public figure, a symbol of honor and loyalty. And a public figure has no right to privacy. This leads to a great academic debate among historians. Scholars still argue whether the Japanese were truly cleaner than their European counterparts. Some contend that the Japanese emphasis on ritual bathing and cleanliness in their homes meant they were more hygienic than the Europeans, who often used perfume to mask their body odor. But others argue that the lack of modern medicine and sanitation meant that both societies were equally prone to disease and pestilence. It's a point of contention that highlights the complex nature of history. But as you're living it, you don't care about the academic debates. You just want a hot bath and a clean bed. The constant physical discomfort takes a toll on your body. You have to deal with the cold, the heat, the dirt, and the lack of proper sleep. Your muscles ache, your joints creak, and your skin is a constant source of irritation. You are a trained warrior, a master of endurance, but your body is still a human body, and it needs rest and care. The code of Bushido may demand that you endure it all without complaint, but your body is screaming for relief. It is a constant battle between your mind, which is committed to your duty, and your body, which is just trying to survive. So, as you lie on your futon at night listening to the gentle hum of the wind through the paper screens, you are not thinking about your glorious victories. You are not thinking about the honor you have brought to your clan. You are thinking about how cold your feet are. You are thinking about the ache in your back. You are thinking about the constant nagging discomfort of your physical existence. And that more than any battle or any training is the real struggle. It is a struggle that never ends, a battle against an enemy you can never truly defeat. It is the silent, lonely misery of being a samurai. You've learned to endure the discomfort of squalid living conditions, the constant physical misery that comes with a life on the road. Now let's talk about what happens when that discomfort turns into something much more sinister. Let's talk about what happens when you get sick. Or worse, when you get injured. The samurai image is one of a warrior who is invincible, but the reality is that your body is a fragile biological machine, and it is prone to breaking down. And when it does, your medical options are, let's just say, they're not great. You think your waiting room is bad, at least you have a waiting room. You're more likely to just die in a ditch. On the battlefield, a small cut is a death sentence. There's no such thing as sterile procedure. A common historical fact is that surgeons would often use the same tools on multiple patients without cleaning them. They would use unwashed hands, and their knowledge of the human body was limited to what they could observe. An arrow in your shoulder, a sword cut on your leg. These are not just injuries. They are invitations for a deadly infection. You can almost feel the microbes entering your bloodstream, an invisible enemy far more lethal than any opponent with a sword. The surgeon, if you're lucky enough to find one, might clean the wound with a little sake or maybe some warm water, but it's a futile effort. He might use a needle and thread to sew you up, but the thread itself is a carrier of disease. The pain is unimaginable, and your only relief is a swig of rough, cheap sake, a temporary solace against a pain that is both physical and existential. And it's not just the battlefield. Every single day of your life is a medical minefield. Remember all that talk about squalid living conditions, the lack of sanitation, the communal baths. All of it contributes to a constant low-level war against sickness. A simple cold can turn into pneumonia. A stomachache can turn into dysentery. Your dental plan involves pulling your own teeth out with a rusty pair of pliers and a bottle of sake. The lack of proper nutrition from your reliance on a meager rice stipend weakens your immune system. You are a warrior in top physical condition, but you are also a person in a pre-modern world, and your body is a constant battlefield of germs, viruses, and parasites. This is where the psychological burden of Bushido comes back in a particularly cruel way. You are expected to hide your pain. To show that you are sick or injured is a sign of weakness, a failure to endure. You're not allowed to groan in pain, to complain about your fever, or to ask for help. You have to bear it all with a stoic, impassive face. The fear of dishonor is a powerful motivator, and it is a motivator that often kills you. You will hide your fever, your infection, your broken bone until it's too late. You will die with a stoic expression, but inside your body is screaming in protest. The medical knowledge of the time is a fascinating mix of ancient Chinese medicine folk remedies and a healthy dose of superstition. A little-known detail about this is the use of herbal poultices. You might have a doctor who with great seriousness applies a concoction of herbs, crushed leaves, and sometimes even animal dung to your wound. The hope is that the concoction will draw out the poison and heal you. Sometimes it works, but often it just makes the infection worse. It's a form of medical gambling, and you are the chips. Your life is on the line, and the house almost always wins. The pain is a constant companion. A broken bone, a deep cut, a fever, you have to endure it all with nothing but a swig of sake and a prayer. There's no such thing as anesthesia, no concept of a painkiller. You are a man who has learned to feel no fear on the battlefield, but you are terrified of a simple fever. You are a man who has learned to face death with dignity, but you are a man who will die in a ditch forgotten and in pain. The irony is as brutal as a sword cut, and this is where a great academic debate arises. Historians still argue about the influence of external medical practices on Japan during this period. The Dutch, through their trading post at Dejima, brought with them a different understanding of the human body and of medicine. Scholars debate how much of this knowledge actually trickled down to the average samurai. Was it a widely available resource, or was it a privilege reserved for the highest-ranking lords? It's a point of contention that highlights the complex nature of history. But as you're living it, you don't care about the academic debates. You just want a doctor who knows what he's doing. The lack of medical care is a constant, quiet threat. You can be the most skilled warrior in the world, the most loyal servant to your lord, the most honorable man in your clan, but a simple infection from a rusty nail can end your life. It is a humbling and terrifying truth. Your physical strength, which was so painstakingly built through years of training, means nothing in the face of a bacterium. The samurai is a symbol of power, but he is a symbol that is easily broken, and there is no one to put him back together. So as you lie on your futon at night, listening to the gentle hum of the wind through the paper screens, you are not thinking about your glorious victories. You are not thinking about the honor you have brought to your clan. You are thinking about the quiet, persistent ache in your bones. You are thinking about the subtle burning in your arm from a small cut you got today. You are thinking about the quiet fear that a simple illness could end your life, and there is nothing you can do about it. And that more than any battle or any training is the real struggle. It is a struggle that never ends a battle against an enemy you can never truly defeat. It is the silent, lonely misery of being a samurai. You have faced down the brutal reality of war, the cold of a field hospital, and the slow-motion decay of your own body. But the most dangerous place you will ever be is not on the battlefield. It is in the halls of power in your lord's court, where a quiet whisper can be more lethal than a sword. You are a warrior, a master of combat, but you are also a pawn in a deadly game of political intrigue, a game you can never truly win. You are a warrior who's trained his entire life to fight, and now you spend your days gossiping and pretending to like your boss's terrible tea. It's like the ultimate corporate culture shock. The world you inhabit is a complex web of alliances, rivalries, and unspoken threats. Your lord, your daimyo, is not a monolithic figure of power. He is constantly navigating a treacherous landscape of competing interests from other lords, from his own ambitious retainers, and from the distant authority of the shogun. And you, as his loyal samurai, are a piece in this game. Your life, your land, your very existence can be forfeit in a moment. not because of a battlefield loss, but because of a political miscalculation or a betrayal. Your friends are your enemies are your friends, and everyone is a potential backstabber. It's less of a life and more of a really long, terrifying episode of a reality TV show. A common historical fact is the use of arranged marriages to form political alliances. Your family's bloodline is a commodity, a tool to be used to solidify your lord's power. Your sister might be married off to the son of a rival lord, a fragile peace treaty, built on the hope that their union will prevent bloodshed. You have no say in the matter. Your personal happiness, your emotional well-being is irrelevant. The needs of the clan of your lord are paramount. It is a deeply dehumanizing practice, a reminder that you are not a person with personal feelings, but a strategic asset to be deployed as needed. And the everyday social gatherings, which seem so peaceful and elegant, are a stage for ruthless political maneuvering. The tea ceremony, a symbol of tranquility and harmony, is often a place where political negotiations, espionage, and even murder are planned. The quiet, controlled atmosphere is a perfect cover for whispered threats and subtle betrayals. The person you share a bowl of tea with might be the very person who is plotting your downfall. It's a chilling reality, a quiet, polite terror that permeates every aspect of your life. Every word you say, every gesture you make, every piece of gossip you hear. It all has a political weight. You are always on guard, always analyzing, always in a state of high alert. The constant fear of betrayal is a psychological burden heavier than any armor. The person you fought alongside yesterday, the comrade you shared a meal with, could be your enemy tomorrow. A change in your lord's fortunes, a new alliance, a sudden shift in power, any of it can turn a friend into a mortal enemy. And because of the code of Bushido, you are expected to fight your new enemy without a second thought, without a flicker of hesitation. You are a tool of your lord's will, a blunt instrument used to enforce his changing alliances. It is a cold, brutal, and ultimately lonely existence. You're like a character in a video game, but instead of making your own choices, you're just following a very complicated and often self-destructive script. This is where a great academic debate arises. Historians still argue about the true power of the shogun versus the power of the various daimyo. Was the shogunate a truly absolute power, or was it in a constant state of flux, balancing the competing interests of powerful lords? The balance of power was always shifting, and you as a samurai were caught in the middle of it. Your loyalty was to your lord, but your lord's loyalty was to his own ambition and his own survival. It's a point of contention that highlights the complex and often contradictory nature of the samurai system. But as you are living it, you don't care about the academic debates. You just want to survive the next political storm. The psychological toll of this is immense. You are living a double life. On the outside, you are a stoic, impassive warrior who is committed to his lord's cause. On the inside, you are a man who is constantly on edge, constantly afraid of a sudden shift in power, a sudden betrayal that could cost you your life, your family, your honor. The poverty you endure, the lack of medical care you suffer from the physical discomfort of your life, all of it makes you a more vulnerable piece on the political chessboard. You are an easily disposable asset, a man whose life can be forfeit for the slightest political gain. So, as you lie on your futon at night listening to the gentle hum of the wind through the paper screens, you are not thinking about your glorious victories. You are not thinking about the honor you have brought to your clan. You are thinking about the quiet, terrifying world of political intrigue. You are thinking about the subtle threats, the quiet betrayals, the endless web of alliances and rivalries. You are a warrior, but you are also a politician, and a very bad one at that. And that, my friend, is a truth heavier than any sword you will ever carry. You've survived the physical trials of training, the suffocating grip of social hierarchy, the constant fear of dishonor, the brutal reality of war, the grinding stress of poverty, the crushing burden of Bushido, the unending discomfort of your living conditions, the terrifying lack of medical care, and the treacherous world of political intrigue. All of these struggles, all of these miseries, they are just the outward symptoms of a single all-encompassing disease, a life lived without true rest. The samurai is a symbol of power and control, but your reality is one of constant vigilance and unending state of high alert. The specter of a sudden death, a sudden betrayal, or a sudden order to commit ritual suicide is always looming. Your life has the same level of surprise as a jump scare in a horror movie, but instead of a monster, it's a sudden order to disembowel yourself. You never truly know when the end is coming. This constant state of readiness is a part of your DNA, a habit that was beaten into you from a young age. Remember all that training. It was meant to make you a perfect tool, a weapon that is always ready. That training never truly ends. A common historical fact is that a samurai's daily ritual was a form of constant preparation. You would wake before dawn, practice your forms, meditate, and meticulously prepare for the day ahead as if it were your last. This ritualized preparation is a well-known aspect of the samurai's existence, and it's a terrifying one. You are basically a human Boy Scout, but instead of be prepared, it's more like be prepared for literally everything, including your own gruesome death. Your mind is never truly at ease. The political intrigues you navigate in the court, the potential for betrayal from your comrades, the financial stresses of your life, it all runs in the background of your mind, a constant hum of anxiety that never stops. Your brain's only vacation is a 5-minute nap, and even then you're dreaming about spreadsheets and betrayal. It's like being a CEO and a warrior at the same time, but with way more swords. You can't just turn it off. You can't just go home and relax. Your home is not a sanctuary. It's a place where you must be on guard, ready for a sudden attack, a sudden order, or a sudden change in fortune. Even sleep, which should be a time of rest and restoration, is a vulnerable moment. A little-known detail about a samurai's nightly ritual is the placement of their sword. Many samurai would sleep with their sword, the katana, placed within arm's reach, so that they could grab it in an instant in case of a surprise attack. The sword's hilt would be facing their hand, ready to be drawn in a single fluid motion. This seemingly small act speaks volumes about the level of constant vigilance you must maintain. Even in the deepest sleep, you are still a warrior, a human being who is always on guard. Your brain is a switch that is always in the on position, and there is no one who can turn it off. The constant stress, the lack of rest, the perpetual state of high alert, all of it takes a toll on your body. It drains you, it wears you down. It leaves you feeling utterly exhausted all the time. Your years of physical training gave you a body of iron, but a mind that is constantly under siege. You are a warrior who has mastered the art of fighting, but you have not mastered the art of living. The samurai is a symbol of power, but you are a man who is living a life of constant fear, a man who is always looking over his shoulder, a man who is always waiting for the end. And this leads to a fascinating academic debate. Historians still argue about the impact of this constant stress on a samurai's lifespan. Some scholars argue that the samurai, despite their physical training, had a shorter lifespan than other members of society due to the constant stress, poor nutrition, and risk of injury. Others contend that their physical training and discipline gave them a longer lifespan. It's a point of contention that highlights the complex nature of history, but as you are living it, you don't care about the academic debates. You just want a single, uninterrupted moment of peace. So, as you lie on your futon at night, listening to the gentle hum of the wind through the paper screens, you are not thinking about your glorious victories. You are not thinking about the honor you have brought to your clan. You are thinking about how tired you are. You are thinking about the constant nagging fear that a sudden illness, a political betrayal, or a surprise attack could end your life in an instant. You are a warrior, but you are also a prisoner of your own rank, a man whose life is a constant, unending battle. And that, my friend, is a truth heavier than any sword you will ever carry. And the battle, the struggle, the constant anxiety, it can all seem so overwhelming, can it? It feels like the weight of the world is on your shoulders and you can't see a way out. But for now, for this moment, just let it all go. Let the images of the past fade away, the sound of the clashing swords, the smell of the mud and the blood. Just let the sound of my voice, the gentle hum of a fan, the soft rustle of a sheet pull you back to the present. The samurai and his struggles, his burdens and his fears, they belong to another time, another world. And you You belong here in your own comfortable space, safe and sound. The history we have shared, the journey we have taken together has come to an end. It's time to let it all go. Just close your eyes, take a deep, slow breath, and let your body sink into your bed. All the warriors, all the battles, all the fear, they are just stories now. So let them drift away like the soft whispers of a gentle breeze in the night. It's time to rest.